The hospital badge still hangs warm against Naomi Carter's chest when the red and blue lights flood her rear-view mirror. She exhales slowly, fingers tightening around the steering wheel. Midnight hums outside. Empty streets, blinking traffic lights, the distant wail of sirens folding into the city's breath. 12 hours on her feet. 3 codes. 1 patient who didn't make it. Her scrubs smell faintly of antiseptic and exhaustion. She signals, pulls over. The officer approaches too fast. Hand already resting on his belt. Flashlight beam slicing through the car like a blade, lingering on her face longer than necessary. License. Registration, he says. No greeting. No explanation. Naomi passes him through the open window. Her voice stays even. Was I speeding, officer? He doesn't answer. Instead, his eyes drop to her scrubs, then to her hands. Step out of the vehicle. Her stomach tightens. Why? He smiles, but it doesn't reach his eyes. Because I said so. The pavement is cold through her shoes. Cars whisper past, slowing just enough to look. The flashlight circles her body, her car, her life, as if searching for something already decided. You coming from somewhere? He asks. Work. Mercy General. He snorts. Funny. Long shift for that. Naomi feels the heat rise in her chest. Not anger yet. Something older. Heavier. She lifts her chin. Am I being detained? The officer leans closer, voice dropping. You people always get ahead of yourselves. The words land clean, surgical, final. Behind them, a black SUV slows, hospital decals barely visible under the streetlight. Naomi's phone vibrates in her pocket. A single incoming call. Mercy General, Administration. The officer doesn't see it. Yet, Naomi Carter clocks out at 11:47 p.m., fingers stiff as she slides her badge through the reader one last time. The soft beep is anticlimactic after the night she's had. 3 floors short-staffed. 1 patient gone despite everything. Another clinging to a ventilator, like a promise no one dares make. She rolls her shoulders as she walks to the parking garage, the echo of her steps swallowed by concrete. Her reflection flickers across windshields. Scrubs wrinkled, hair pulled back tight, eyes dulled by fluorescent light and responsibility. She unlocks her car and sits for a moment before turning the key, letting the quiet settle. The drive home is muscle memory. Empty streets, closed storefronts, a city pretending to sleep. The lights hit her, without warning. Red, blue, filling the mirrors, cutting through the dark. Naomi exhales and signals, pulling to the curb. She checks the speedometer. 35, exactly the limit. Her jaw tightens anyway. The officer approaches fast, boots loud on asphalt. The flashlight comes first, slicing through the car, lingering on her face. License and registration. No greeting. No explanation. She hands them over. Was I speeding, officer? He doesn't answer. His eyes move. Her hands are scrubs, the hospital logo stitched over her heart. Step out of the vehicle. Her stomach knots. Why? Because I said so. She opens the door. The night air is colder than she expects. He gestures her to the sidewalk, keeps his distance just long enough to make a show of control. You coming from somewhere? He asks. Work. Mercy General. He snorts. Long shift for a nurse. The word nurse lands strange. Flat. Doubtful. Naomi keeps her voice steady. Is there a problem? He circles her car, flashlight bouncing off metal. You match a description. Of what? He pauses, smiles thinly. Someone who shouldn't be out this late. Her pulse spikes. She watches a car slow, then speed up again. No one stops. Am I being detained? She asks. He steps closer. You people always want to jump ahead. The words hit harder than she expects. Not loud, not shouted, just certain. Naomi swallows. She thinks of her staff, who covers extra shifts, who breaks down in supply closets, who never gets thanked. She thinks of how carefully she's learned to speak. My hands are visible, she says quietly. Good, he replies. Keep them that way. He radios something she can't hear. Glances at his watch. Takes his time. You live around here? He asks. Yes. Where exactly? She gives the address. He nods like he already knows it. You know, he says, almost conversational, people lie all the time. Naomi meets his eyes. I'm not. He studies her as if weighing something. We'll see. Her phone vibrates in her pocket. She doesn't reach for it. He notices anyway. What was that? My phone. Don't touch it. I wasn't. Another pause. Another car passes. He finally hands back her license, but not the registration. I'm going to verify your employment. Naomi blinks. That's not necessary. Humor me. He turns away, radio crackling. Naomi stands on the streetlight, scrubs glowing pale, exhaustion sinking deeper into her bones. Across the street, a black SUV idles, hospital decals catching the light. Her phone vibrates again. She doesn't move. She already knows this night isn't over. The officer turns his back to Naomi as the conversation is over, radio lifted to his mouth. Posture relaxed now that he has decided the night belongs to him. Naomi stays still beneath the streetlight, hands loose at her sides, every muscle aware of how easily stillness can be misread. Dispatch, he says, voice casual. I've got a possible employment verification. Female, claims she works at Mercy General. Claims. Naomi stares at the pavement, cracked and uneven. She imagines a hospital at this hour. The night shift settling in, the charge nurses counting staff, the constant quiet panic of not having enough hands. She should be there. Instead, she's here, being turned into a question mark. The radio crackles back. Copy. Stand by. The officer glances over his shoulder at her, eyes sharp. You said nurse? Yes. What unit? She hesitates, then answers. Administration. He laughs softly. Administration works late now? I oversee staffing, Naomi says. Calm. Measured. Emergencies don't clock out. He hums like that amuses him. Uh-huh. A car slows nearby. The driver looks. Keeps going. Naomi feels a familiar burn behind her eyes. Not from fear, but from effort. From holding herself together in a moment designed to pull her apart. The radio crackles again. Mercy General main line is ringing. Good, the officer replies. Let it ring. Naomi lifts her head. Is there a reason I'm being held? He ignores her, walks a few steps away, lowering his voice. She catches fragments, late night, alone, suspicious. Suspicious for existing. Minutes pass. Each one stretches. Naomi thinks of her mother's voice years ago. Don't give them anything to twist. She thinks of the interns she mentors, the ones who look at her like proof that survival and authority can live in the same body. The officer returns, holding her registration now like leverage. Dispatch can't reach anyone yet. They will, Naomi says. He smiles again, thin and satisfied. Maybe. Her phone vibrates harder this time. She feels it against her hip, like a pulse. Is that still your phone? He asks. Yes. Who's calling you this late? My workplace. He tilts his head. Funny. She meets his gaze. You're the one calling them. For a split second, something flickers across his face. Irritation. Maybe. Then it's gone. Don't get smart, he says. I'm just doing my job. Naomi nods slowly. Then do it. Another call crackles through the radio. The officer listens, brows knitting. Say again, he says. He glances at Naomi. Really looks this time. Her posture. Her stillness. The badge clip peeking from her pocket. Administration, you said? He asks again. Yes. The radio speaks louder now. Words bleeding into the night. Director's office. They're asking who initiated the call. The officer straightens. Tell him to routine stop. There's a pause. Then they want a name. His jaw tightens. He doesn't answer right away. Naomi feels her heart begin to pound. Not with triumph, not yet, but with the sharp awareness that moments like this turn suddenly. That power doesn't like being seen. Officer, she says quietly. He turns on her. I didn't say you could speak. I know, Naomi replies, but you should. He stares at her, then looks back at the radio. Badge number 4172. The silence that follows is different. Heavy. Charged. Naomi's phone vibrates again, insistent now. The officer watches it like it might explode. Answer it, he says suddenly. She doesn't move. You told me not to. His mouth tightens. He gestures sharply. Answer it. She takes the phone out slowly, shows him the screen. Mercy General. Chief Operations. The officer's eyes flick up to her face. Put it on speaker, he says. Naomi hesitates just long enough to matter, then taps the screen. Naomi, a voice says control but urgent. Where are you? She swallows. I'm being detained. There's a pause on the line. Not confusion. Recognition. By whom? The voice asks. The officer shifts his weight. Naomi meets his eyes as she answers. That, she says, is what he's about to explain. The officer reaches the radio before Naomi can say another word, as if the device might restore balance by sheer familiarity. His shoulders stiffen. The calm he'd worn earlier peels away in thin strips. Ma'am, he says, voice suddenly formal, I need you to stay where you are. Naomi doesn't move. She doesn't have to. On the phone, the voice sharpens. Officer, this is Mercy General Chief Operations. Identify yourself. He hesitates half a second too long. Naomi notices. She always notices pauses. Hesitation costs lives in hallways full of machines. Officer Daniel Reeves. He says, Badge 4172. Officer Reeves. The voice replies evenly. On what grounds are you detaining our Director of Nursing Operations? Director. The word lands between them like a dropped instrument. Naomi closes her eyes briefly. Not relief. Something closer to grief. Because no title should have been required for dignity. Reeves clears his throat. Routine traffic stop. Employment verification. Verification has been completed. The voice says, You may release her. Reeves looks at Naomi. His gaze is different now. Calculating. Searching for a way out that doesn't feel like a loss. I still need to finish my report, he says. Naomi opens her eyes. Of what? He ignores the question. Hands her the registration. Abruptly. You're free to go. The phrasing sticks. Free. As if she hadn't been before. Naomi steps back toward her car, legs unsteady in a way she refuses to show. She pauses with her hand on the door. I'd like your supervisor's name, she says. Reeves stiffens. Excuse me? For my records, Naomi replies. Since you're filing one. Silence stretches. Traffic hums. The hospital SUV across the street pulls away slowly, as if giving space to something unfinished. Reeves exhales through his nose. Sergeant Miller. Thank you, Naomi says. She gets into her car, hands shaking now that the performance is over. She ends a call with administration, promises she's on her way. When she drives off, she doesn't look back. By morning, the report exists. Naomi reads it at her kitchen table. Coffee untouched, sunlight creeping across the floor. The language is clean. Polite. Wrong. Subject appeared evasive. Inconsistent statements regarding employment. Officer conducted verification for public safety. There is no mention of tone. No mention of the words that cut. No mention of how long she stood under that light. Paper absorbs lies easily. She forwards the report to legal. Adds a single line beneath it. This account is inaccurate. At the hospital, the reaction fractures along predictable lines. You should let this go, a colleague murmurs near the elevators. You don't want trouble. Another squeezes her hand too tightly. I'm proud of you. Administration schedules a meeting. Internal Affairs opens a preliminary review. The phrase preliminary hovers like a warning. Naomi sits through it all with the same restraint she uses in crises, measured answers, dates, times. Facts, not feelings. She gives them what they ask for and nothing extra. At home that night, sleep doesn't come. Her body replays the stop in fragments. The flashlight, the smile, the word people. She wonders how many reports like this exist. filed neatly, believed automatically. 2 days later, a request arrives. Body camera footage. Pending review. Pending means delay. Delay means protection. Reeves goes back to work. Naomi goes back to hers. She walks hospital corridors with new awareness. Every interaction edged with memory. She notices who avoids her eyes, who watches her more closely now. Authority has a way of isolating even as it elevates. The footage is released to Internal Affairs a week later. It doesn't match the report. The pauses are longer, the tone sharper, the smile visible even without sound. The moment he says "you people" catches clearly, clean as a diagnosis. Someone leaks it. No one admits who. By evening, Naomi's phone won't stop vibrating. Messages from staff, from friends she hasn't spoken to in years, from strangers. "Is this you? I'm so sorry. Thank you for saying something." A local news station calls. She doesn't answer. Reeves is placed on administrative leave. Paid. The department releases a statement about ongoing review and community trust. Naomi reads it once, then deletes it. That night, she opens a new document. Names, dates, times. Incident staff have mentioned quietly over the years. Patterns she'd noticed but never connected like this. Paper trails go both ways. She types until her hands ache. When she finally stops, the sun is coming up. Naomi saves the file. And this time, she names it carefully. Record. The hospital does not slow down for scandal. At 6:12 a.m., Naomi stands in the staffing office watching names populate the screen. Gaps, double shifts, quiet emergencies disguised as numbers. Phones ring. Someone cries softly behind a closed door. The work keeps coming, relentless and indifferent the way it always has. What changes is the air around her. Conversations pause when she enters rooms. Some people lower their voices out of respect. Others do out of fear. Authority reshapes proximity. It teaches people where to stand. "You okay?" Linda asks, hovering near Naomi's desk. Linda has worked nights for 23 years and survived 4 restructures. Her concern is real, but cautious. "I'm fine," Naomi says automatically. Linda nods, then hesitates. They're talking. Naomi doesn't ask who they are. She already knows. By noon, an email circulates from hospital administration, carefully worded, supportive without commitment, condemning any form of bias without naming the incident that caused it. Naomi reads it twice. The language is familiar, institutional, designed to absorb impact without changing shape. Her phone buzzes. A text from her brother. "Saw the video. You didn't deserve that." She stares at the message longer than necessary. Then types back, "I know." Across town, Officer Daniel Reeves sits at home on paid leave, his name trending without his consent. Naomi doesn't know what his living room looks like, but she imagines it anyway. Quiet, television on, the world shrinking to a screen that refuses to look away. She doesn't feel satisfaction. She feels exposed. The news station airs the footage that evening. Her face pixelated but recognizable to anyone who knows her. The anchor's voice is calm, practiced. This is part of a larger conversation about policing and bias. He says, larger conversations always land on individual bodies. The comments come fast online. Support, rage, doubt. Why didn't she just comply? She was asking for it. That officer was doing his job. Naomi closes the app. The words linger anyway. At work the next day, Human Resources asks if she liked counseling services. The offer is sincere, but late. Trauma doesn't wait for permission. In a conference room with glass walls, Naomi sits across from legal. They ask her to recount the stop again. She does. Calmly. Precisely. Her voice doesn't shake until the end. And even then she controls it. "Do you feel the department has responded appropriately?" one of them asks. Naomi considers the question. "I feel they responded predictably." That earns a look, a note scribbled quickly. After the meeting, she retreats to the stairwell and presses her forehead against the cool metal railing. She counts breaths. In, out, order imposed on chaos. She thinks of the nurses she schedules, the ones who absorb grief daily and still show up. She thinks of how often she's told them to rest, to care for themselves, knowing the system rarely allows it. That night, she dreams of standing under the streetlight again. This time, there's no officer, just a light humming, waiting. She wakes with her heart racing. The department announces an internal hearing. Naomi will be asked to testify. The phrase internal sticks with her. As if truth behaves differently indoors. A reporter leaves a voicemail. Then another. Naomi deletes them all. At Mercy General, a junior nurse stops Naomi near the elevators. Her hands tremble. "I just wanted to say thank you," the nurse blurts, "for not pretending it didn't happen." Naomi studies her face. Young, tired, afraid. "Thank you for being here," Naomi replies. The nurse nods, eyes bright. "It matters." It does. And that is the cost, because matter attracts force. An anonymous complaint appears online, questioning Naomi's leadership. Someone forwards it to her with a single word, careful. She prints it out, adds it to the growing file at home. Order, she knows, is not neutral. It is enforced, maintained, paid for by those expected to endure quietly. The hearing date is set. Reeves's lawyer requests a delay. The union releases a statement. Naomi stands at her kitchen sink, hands submerged in warm water, staring at nothing. The city hums outside, life continuing, indifferent again. She dries her hands, picks up her phone, opens a file named Record, adds another line. The footage breaks containment on a Thursday afternoon. It appears first without commentary, without warning. 37 seconds clipped and posted by an account with no name. No logo, just a light, the voice, the pause before the word people falls. By the time Naomi leaves a meeting, it's everywhere. Her phone vibrates until the battery warns her to stop. Group texts light up. A nurse she hasn't seen in years messages. That was him. I knew it. Someone else sends a heart. Another sends a link she doesn't open. At home, Naomi watches the full clip once. Only once. She notices things she didn't before. The way Reeves shifts his weight when challenged, the casual ease of his hand on the belt, the smirk that flickers and disappears when authority pushes back. She hears her own voice, steady, restrained, and feels a strange distance from it, like watching a stranger do a hard thing on her behalf. The news cycle takes over. By evening, national outlets are calling. The framing is careful, then less so. Pundits argue. Panels assemble. Words like context and training and bad apple float across screens. Naomi doesn't watch. Instead, she goes for a walk. The neighborhood is quiet, early autumn air cool against her skin. She passes houses with porch lights on, families inside, lives unbothered by her name trending. She wonders how many of them have ever stood under a streetlight waiting to be believed. A woman across the street nods at her. "Saw the video," she says softly. "I'm sorry." Naomi thanks her and keeps walking. The police department releases another statement, this one longer, more careful. It mentions regret. It does not mention racism. Reeves's lawyer goes on record, says his client felt threatened, says the video lacks full context, says public judgment is premature. Naomi reads a quote and laughs once, sharply, surprising herself. Threatened by stillness, by questions asked politely. The internal hearing is moved up. At the hospital, staff reactions sharpen. Some become openly supportive, wearing pins, leaving notes on Naomi's desk. Others pull back, afraid of association. Neutrality, she's learned, often wears the mask of professionalism. A senior administrator asks Naomi to consider taking leave. "For your well-being," he says. She studies his face. "Or for yours?" He doesn't answer. That night, her brother comes over with takeout. They eat in silence for a while. Finally, he says, "You didn't do anything wrong." "I know," Naomi replies. The words feel insufficient. He watches her. "You don't sound like you believe it." She sets her fork down. "I believe it. I just know it won't matter to everyone." Another leak follows. This one isn't video. It's a spreadsheet. Complaints. Dates. Names redacted, but patterns visible. Reeves's name appears more than once. Always resolved. Always closed. The department confirms an investigation into historical conduct. Reeves is suspended without pay. Naomi feels a shift ripple outward, immediate and loud. Messages change tone. Some congratulate her. Some accuse her. One anonymous email reads, "You ruined a good man's life." She deletes it, then empties the trash. The hearing begins behind closed doors. Naomi sits at the long table, hands folded, spine straight. Reeves sits across from her, flanked by counsel. He doesn't look at her. When she speaks, she doesn't perform. She recounts. She answers questions fully. She refuses hypotheticals. "Did you feel targeted?" someone asks. "Yes," Naomi says, "because I was." "Do you believe race played a role?" "Yes." Reeves finally looks up. His eyes are cold now, defensive, smaller. His lawyer objects. Language is debated. Words are weighed like currency. Naomi keeps her voice even. The system doesn't acquire intent to produce harm. There's a pause. Pens stop moving. Outside, protesters gather. Some in uniform, some in scrubs. Signs rise and fall with the rhythm of chants. Inside, decisions are delayed. Committees confer. Recommendations are drafted. That evening, Naomi returns home exhausted in a way sleep won't fix. She sits on the edge of her bed and finally lets the tears come. Not for the stop, not for the headlines, but for the version of herself that had hoped professionalism alone would protect her. Her phone buzzes again. A message from an unknown number. "Thank you for saying it out loud." Naomi wipes her face, breathes. Exposure, she realizes, is not a moment. It's a condition. It burns and it clarifies. It leaves scars and light in equal measure. She opens the record file one more time, adds a final note for the day. Visibility has a cost. Silence has a higher one. Institutions remember selectively. Naomi understands this as she sits in the municipal building's hearing room, the air stale with recycled breath and old authority. The walls are lined with framed photos. Former chiefs, former mayors, former men who once defined order. None of them look like her. The panel files in one by one. Faces neutral. Folders thick. Memory organized into sections and tabs. Reeves sits across the room again, uniform replaced by a suit that doesn't quite fit his posture. He keeps his hands folded now, careful, disciplined in a way Naomi didn't see that night. His lawyer whispers something. Reeves nods. Naomi waits. The chair clears her throat. "This hearing concerns conduct and procedure," she says. "We are not here to determine intent." Naomi notes that sentence carefully. Not intent. Outcome. She is sworn in again. The oath feels heavier this time, not because it's new, but because it's public. "Please describe the events of the stop." The chair says. Naomi does. Again, the words come smoothly now, worn into shape by repetition. She describes the lights, the order to exit the vehicle, the verification. She quotes only one line. "You people always get ahead of yourselves." The room shifts almost imperceptibly. A panel member leans forward. "How did that make you feel?" Naomi pauses. This question is different, dangerous in its softness. "It told me," she says carefully, "that my presence was already categorized, that nothing I said could change that until someone else confirmed my worth." A pen stills. Reeves's lawyer stands. Officer Reeves denies racial intent. Naomi turns her head slightly. Intent is not required for harm. The chair raises a hand. "Ms. Carter, please direct your responses to the panel." Naomi nods. "Of course." Reeves testifies next. His voice is steady, practiced. He speaks of safety, of procedure, of split-second decisions made late at night. He avoids Naomi's eyes. When asked about prior complaints, he defers to the union. When asked about tone, he says, "I don't recall." Memory erases efficiently when it's allowed to. A panel member asks, "Would you handle the stop differently now?" Reeves hesitates. Given the public reaction, yes. Naomi feels something tighten in her chest. Not anger, recognition. Even now, The lesson is not about her. The hearing adjourns for deliberation. Outside, Naomi sits alone on a bench, sunlight slicing through the courtyard. Her phone buzzes with updates she doesn't read. She thinks about the nurses who texted encouragement, the ones who said nothing, about how institutional memory often relies on who insists on being recorded. She receives an email from the hospital. A policy review is underway. Training will be expanded. Language will be examined. She reads it once, saves it. Weeks pass. The decision arrives in a sealed envelope. Reeves is found in violation of conduct standards. He is terminated. His appeal rights outlined clearly. His union responds immediately, condemning the decision, promising further action. Naomi sits at her table, envelope open, hands resting flat on the paper. Termination is a word that sounds final but rarely is. Still, it matters. The department holds a press conference. The chief speaks of accountability, of lessons learned, of moving forward. Naomi watches for 30 seconds, then turns it off. Messages flood in again. Congratulations. Relief. Warnings. One message stands out from a former patient she barely remembers. You changed something. Naomi doesn't reply right away. At work, the atmosphere shifts again. Less fear now, more caution. People speak differently in meetings. Policies are cited more carefully. Institutional memory, once activated, reshapes behavior, not always hearts, but outcomes. Naomi is asked to join a task force. She agrees with conditions. Transparency, authority, follow through. At night, she still wakes sometimes, light flooding her dreams. But the dreams are shorter now, the light less blinding. She adds a hearing outcome to record, along with the policy changes, the statements, the dates. Memory preserved deliberately, because institutions forget when allowed. And Naomi no longer allows it. She closes the file. Outside, the city hums, imperfect, unresolved, still moving. For the first time since the stop, Naomi feels something like ground beneath her feet. Not victory, but footing. The email goes out on a Monday morning. Not from Naomi, but about her. It's brief, factual, impossible to misunderstand. A clarification. Administration calls it. Sent to partner hospitals, department heads, city officials who suddenly want context. Naomi Carter oversees nursing staffing and emergency coverage across the Mercy General Network, across 3 hospitals, 2 trauma centers, hundreds of nurses whose absence or presence determines whether hallways flood or breathe. The message spreads faster than intended. By noon, people who once spoke over her now pause before finishing sentences. Titles don't change her voice, but they recalibrate how others hear it. In the break room, a charge nurse lets out a low whistle. So that's why things actually run. Naomi smiles faintly. They always did. The difference is visibility. A local paper runs a follow-up story. This one focuses on systems, not spectacle. Her role is mentioned midway down the article, almost as an aside. The contrast is sharp enough to sting. Officer questioned authority he did not recognize. Naomi reads that line twice. She doesn't forward it. Across town, Reeves's appeal makes quiet progress. Legal language moves slower than outrage. Naomi is copied on updates she doesn't need, invited to comments she doesn't make. She has learned when silence is strength and when it is surrender. This is neither. At a regional staffing summit, Naomi takes the podium for the first time since the incident. The room is full. Administrators, directors, people who have said her name without knowing her. She begins without preamble. Short staffing is an emergency, she says. It's a policy choice. The room stills. She speaks about burnout, about retention, about how trust erodes quietly before it collapses publicly. She doesn't mention the stop. She doesn't have to. Afterward, a man in a suit approaches her, hand extended. I had no idea you were responsible for all that. Naomi shakes his hand. Most people don't. He flushes. I know what you meant, she says gently. That night, she reviews schedules, adjusts coverage, approves overtime with the same precision she always has. The work hasn't changed. The wait has. A nurse calls her directly. Unusual, bypassing 3 layers. I just wanted to say, the woman says, voice shaking. Seeing you stand there made me feel like maybe this place sees us. Naomi closes her eyes briefly. I see you, she replies. The officer's name surfaces again online, this time paired with hers in contrast. Commentators dissect the irony, the imbalance, the lesson. Naomi avoids the comment sections. Irony is cheap, consequence is not. At home, she cooks dinner slowly, deliberately, chops vegetables, listens to music, reclaims small rituals the story tried to steal. Her brother calls. You good? I'm working, she says. Then, after pause, and yes, she means it. The task force meets for the first time. Naomi insists on minutes, on timelines, on accountability measures with names attached. Some resist, some don't. Institutional memory is fragile. It must be reinforced. Later, alone, Naomi opens record again. She adds today's email, the article, the summit. She writes one line beneath it all. Authority is often invisible until challenged. She saved the file and closes a laptop. Outside, an ambulance passes, lights off, siren quiet. Someone inside is stable. For now, someone staffed the shift. Someone made sure of it. Naomi stands at the window, watching the city breathe. The world did not change because an officer learned who she was. It changed because she refused to disappear long enough for the truth to surface. And that truth, slow, procedural, unglamorous, is finally doing its work. Judgment arrives without ceremony. No sirens, no crowds. Just a docket number posted online early on a Tuesday morning, buried beneath zoning disputes and permit appeals. Naomi finds it by accident, forwarded from legal with a subject line that reads only, update. Reeves's appeal is denied. The language is spare, almost indifferent. Termination upheld. Procedures followed. No further administrative remedy available. Naomi reads the sentence 3 times, not because she doubts it, but because she's learned how easily words can be undone. They aren't. She closes the document and sits quietly, listening to the refrigerator hum. The city outside sounds the same as it did before the stop. Buses hiss. A dog barks. Life moves forward with no regard for verdicts. Her phone rings. Did you see it? Her brother asks. Yes. A pause. How do you feel? Naomi considers the question honestly. Finished, she says at last. And not at all. At the hospital, the news spreads quickly but without celebration. No one claps. No one brings cake. Justice, when it arrives this way, doesn't ask for witnesses. A nurse catches Naomi in the hallway. I'm glad, she says quietly. I just wish it didn't take all that. Naomi nods. Me too. The department releases one final statement, acknowledging the appeal's outcome. It thanks the community for its patience. It promises continued reform. It avoids Naomi's name entirely. She notices. She lets it go. That evening, a national outlet requests an interview. Naomi declines. The story has taken enough of her voice. She wants it back for people who need it. Online, the reaction fractures again. Some call the decision overdue. Others call it unfair. Reeves's supporters frame him as a casualty of politics. Naomi stops reading after the first few lines. The comments don't need her attention. The systems do. At the next task force meeting, Naomi pushes for implementation dates. Not vision statements. Not commitments to explore. Dates. Metrics. Consequences. One administrator sighs. We've already done a lot. Naomi meets his eyes. Then doing more shouldn't scare you. Silence follows. Then agreement. That night, Naomi dreams against a streetlight. But this time, it flickers and goes out. Darkness settles, not threatening, just quiet. She wakes before dawn and goes for a run. The air is cold. Her breath clouds. Her body remembers motion better than stillness. With each step, something loosens. Later, she sits at her kitchen table with record open one last time. She reads the entire file from beginning to end. The stop, the reports, the hearings, the outcome. She adds a final entry. Appeal denied. Termination upheld. Emotional impact ongoing. She pauses, then adds another line beneath it. Justice does not erase harm. It interrupts repetition. Naomi saved the file and backs it up twice. At work, she returns to ordinary crises. A flu surge, a scheduling conflict, a nurse who needs time off but doesn't know how to ask. Naomi listens, adjusts, solves what can be solved. A junior administrator asks her quietly, "How did you keep going?" Naomi thinks of the question long after the woman leaves. That evening, she answers it, not aloud but honestly. She kept going because stopping would have taught the wrong lesson. The cost lingers. She still checks her mirrors more than she used to. She still measures her tone in rooms that shouldn't require it. Trauma, she knows, doesn't leave on schedule, but resilience doesn't announce itself either. It shows up in consistency, in refusal, in the unglamorous work of making systems slightly less cruel than they were yesterday. Naomi stands at the nurse's station, watching the night shift take over. Face is tired, determined, necessary. She belongs here, always did. Judgment, she realizes, is not the end of the story. It's the moment the story releases you back into your life. Changed, carrying both the weight and the proof that resistance leaves a mark. She picks up her bag, heads home. The city returns to its habits faster than Naomi expects. A month after the appeal is denied, the headlines have moved on. New scandals replace old ones. Names fade. Systems continue their quiet negotiations with consequence. Naomi notices the absence more than the presence. The way no one stops her now to ask how she's holding up. The way concern evaporates once resolution is declared. At Mercy General, the work remains. She walks the floors at shift change, listening to clip reports and softer confessions. A nurse mentions a parent in hospice. Another asks for a schedule adjustment without apology. Naomi approves it. Small mercies still matter. In meetings, people speak more carefully around her, not deferential. Aware, she corrects errors, pushes timelines. The task force produces its first measurable changes, new protocols, clearer reporting paths, a requirement that stops being documented with more than outcome-neutral language. It isn't perfect. It's something. One evening, Naomi stays late to finish a staffing review. The building is quieter than she remembers it being that night. She steps outside and pauses under the entrance lights. The hum is softer here, controlled. She breathes in, then out, steady. Her phone buzzes. A text from an unknown number. "I was on your panel. I didn't say this then, but thank you." Naomi reads it twice, then types back a single word. Heard. At home, she opens a drawer she hasn't touched in weeks. Inside is the badge clip she wore that night. Scratched now, mundane again. She holds it briefly, then sets it back. Some objects don't need ceremony. Her brother visits on Sunday. They cook together, laugh about nothing, argue about a movie. He watches her closely, then relaxes when he sees the rhythm return to her movements. "You're lighter," he says. Naomi considers it. "I'm steadier." He nods. That's enough. A junior nurse emails asking for mentorship. Naomi agrees. They meet for coffee, talk about career paths and survival strategies. The nurse asks hesitantly, "Does it ever stop being hard?" Naomi smiles, not unkindly. It changes shape. The nurse absorbs that, nods. Weeks pass, then months. Naomi still checks her mirrors, still chooses words with intention. But she also laughs more easily now. Trust rebuilds slowly, like muscle. At a city council session, a proposal Naomi helped draft passes quietly. New interagency training requirements, joint accountability measures. No cameras. No applause. Naomi watches from the back row and leaves before anyone can congratulate her. On her last walk of the evening, she passes the street where it happened. She didn't plan to. The light is different now. LED brighter, less forgiving of shadows. Cars pass. People exist without knowing the history beneath their tires. She stands there for a moment, hands in her pockets, feeling the cool air settle. Nothing happens. And that she realizes is part of the point. At home, Naomi opens record for final time. She reads the last entry, leaves it unchanged. Then she closes the file and archives it, not deleting, not erasing, placing it where it can be found if needed. Aftermath is not peace. It is continuation with knowledge. She cooks dinner, sets an alarm, chooses clothes for tomorrow, without calculation. Ordinary decisions, reclaimed. Before bed, she writes a note on a scrap of paper and pins it to corkboard above her desk. Remember what worked. Remember what didn't. Don't confuse quiet with justice. She turns off the light. The city breathes. And Naomi, no longer waiting for permission, breathes with it.